10 billion just appeared out of nowhere. Not from a new deal, not from a stock rally, from a number that every major news outlet got wrong the first time, and that's just the beginning of what's happened in space and science this week. This is everything you need to know. When SpaceX priced its IPO on June 11th, the headlines were consistent across the board. CNBC, NPR, CNN, they all reported $75 billion raised, with the company priced at $135 per share and valued near $1.77 trillion. That figure spread everywhere. It became the accepted fact of the biggest IPO in history. But the final confirmed total was actually $85.7 billion, over $10 billion more than what most of the world was told. And here's what makes this stranger. Normally, IPO momentum fades within the first few days, the initial excitement settles, trading normalizes, and the stock finds a steady level. That hasn't happened with SpaceX. 7 days after listing, shares jumped another 20%, on top of the nearly 20% first day gain. A full week in, and the stock is behaving like it just went public for the first time. A week that never slowed down. Part of the explanation is simple. SpaceX hasn't had a quiet day since the IPO. In the same 7 days, the company launched a Falcon 9 mission carrying Starlink satellites, brought cancer research and bioprinted tissue samples back from the International Space Station, experienced an anomaly during testing of its next-generation Starship rocket, and agreed to acquire AI coding startup Cursor for $60 billion. Each story alone might move a stock modestly. Together, in 7 days, they created a non-stop stream of headlines that kept investor attention locked on SpaceX. The fact that a $10 billion correction to the IPO total barely registered as news tells you something about the pace of this story. There's simply too much happening for any single detail to dominate the conversation for long. The competition is moving too. While SpaceX dominates the headlines, competitors are not standing still. This week, an Ariane 6 heavy lift rocket launched a record-breaking load to orbit, carrying a batch of Amazon's own LEO satellites, Amazon's direct answer to Starlink. The race for orbital infrastructure is intensifying across the entire industry, not just around SpaceX. Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin has also filed plans of its own, proposing more than 51,000 satellites for space-based data centers, directly mirroring SpaceX's AI-1 satellite strategy. Whatever you think about one man controlling this much of the conversation, it's clear now that an entire industry has decided space-based computing is the next frontier worth fighting for. A quieter story from the same week. Now let's step away from SpaceX for a moment because something else happened this week that deserves attention. NASA's MAVEN spacecraft, which has orbited Mars for 11 years, was officially retired. This mission fundamentally changed how scientists understand the red planet. MAVEN revealed how Mars lost its atmosphere over billions of years, a process tied directly to solar wind, stripping away the planet's protective layer. It also served as a critical communications relay for surface missions, relaying data from rovers back to Earth. Scientists are already calling it one of the most successful Mars missions ever flown, and its retirement marks the end of an 11-year chapter in our understanding of why Mars became the cold, thin atmosphere world it is today, while Earth, just one planet over, became home to life. A discovery about what Mars used to be. Connected to that legacy, researchers this week published new findings about Venus, not Mars, but a planet often compared to it. Scientists now believe Venus's extraordinarily slow, backwards rotation was likely caused by a chance encounter billions of years ago, when a moon-sized object slammed into the planet at a high angle and high velocity. This single ancient collision may explain why Venus today rotates so slowly, and in the opposite direction of nearly every other planet in the solar system. It's a reminder that the planets we see today are not how they started. Every world carries scars from its earliest, most violent history. On the search for life beyond Earth, researchers contributed new work this week toward NASA's Habitable Worlds Observatory, a space telescope still in its early planning phases, expected to launch sometime in the 2040s. A new study argues the telescope should be equipped with high-resolution near-infrared spectroscopy, a capability that has never been attempted before due to technological limitations. If successful, this upgraded design could let scientists analyze the atmospheres of distant Earth-like planets in far greater detail than is currently possible, potentially identifying biosignatures, the chemical fingerprints of life, on worlds light years away. It's a reminder that even though this telescope won't launch for another decade or more, the foundational science decisions being made right now will determine whether humanity is even capable of detecting life elsewhere when the time comes. Returning closer to home, NASA also confirmed this week that it's exploring an ambitious plan to boost the orbit of its aging Swift space telescope, extending the mission's lifespan rather than letting it fall back to Earth. Swift has spent over 2 decades observing gamma-ray bursts, some of the most energetic explosions in the universe, and NASA clearly isn't ready to let that data stream go quiet. Meanwhile, an interstellar comet passing through our solar system revealed hidden methane and other chemical signatures this week, giving scientists rare direct evidence of the chemistry happening in a completely different star system. Objects like this only pass through occasionally, and each one offers a brief window to study material that formed somewhere else in the galaxy entirely. What to watch for in the sky? If you want to look up this week, there's plenty to see. A crescent moon recently passed alongside Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury through the Beehive open star cluster, and Venus continues its rare disappearing act behind the moon this month, visible with nothing more than a clear sky and a bit of patience, or a telescope if you really want the detail. So here's where everything stands. A $10 billion correction nobody really noticed, a stock still climbing a full week after one of the biggest IPOs in history, a Mars mission ending after 11 historic years, new clues about why Venus spins backwards, and quiet foundational science happening right now that could determine whether we ever find life on another world. Some of this will dominate headlines for days. Most of it will be forgotten by next week, buried under whatever SpaceX does next. But this is the full picture, not just the loudest story, all of them. Subscribe, Vault.